hey, I'm trying to find it, but I'm finding it difficult to buy.
They're not spending that level of effort and time.
Be a good person.
Yes.
Treat it as a relationship, not just a transaction.
It's
Now,
really just a people game.
how do I do this? Because I'm buying 1 or 2. I'm not buying 10, 20 per month.
You need to become friends with the agent. You need to be friends with the property manager.
How do I get my hands on that golden nugget property? In this episode, we're going to talk about off-market property and how you can get access to the best deals in the market. I found out something recently while working with Adi at Alaya. Most deals and most of the best deals that we find are actually off-market properties. We're going to go through exactly how we find them and share that with you so you can go find it yourself. Adi, how are you, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk about this because it tends to come up a lot, like in conversations with prospects or clients. Can you give me access to off-market properties? And I'm like, wow, is that really all I'm good for? Like,
Do they ask you that?
really? Yeah, directly, because it's become a buzzword in the industry. And I see a lot of my colleagues in the industry talk about it as well. And I think it's good to address the elephant in the room. Like there's more to it than that. But yes, we do most of our deals off-market with properties that the general public is never going to see. And yeah.
Wow.
Let's get into it.
I've noticed that the KPIs and like performance benchmarks for a lot of these buyers agents include getting off-market properties. It makes a little bit of sense now. If you're getting asked this in the initial call, where it's just like, find me something off-market that I can't find myself, then yeah, it makes sense to have those sort of KPIs feed through if that's what the customer wants. Is that right?
I would say so. I think there are buyers agencies out there that quite literally say our value add to you is that we're going to get you access to off-market property. So 100% of our deals are off-market.
Yep.
I think personally, it's a little bit short-sighted because there are some great on-market deals that can also benefit you as a purchaser.
Yep.
They've just been positioned completely wrong. You know, they've taken the wrong photos or they've been the wrong price guide or whatever. Some people sell it on their own. They just list it on REA and hope for the best because they think a sales agent is not the kind of person they want to work with. So there's a lot of different variables here. You know, now I've met some real estate agents. I wouldn't want to work with them either. But you know, I think there's a lot of different aspects to this. But we don't go out there and be like, you know, yes, the value we are going to provide you with our services off market, that's not it. There's much more to it as part of the process. But having said that, we are purchasing a lot of our stock off market, and yeah, I'm sure we're going to dig into how we get access to it. Yeah,
how? Let's get into it. Let's get into this juicy one.
Okay, so
that was a.
Where do I begin?
Should I share this? Should I share this?
That's right.
Don't copy it.
Okay, so how do we get access to off market? Why don't we talk about markets in general? Let's talk about Melbourne, right? I would say probably in the last 2 months, 98%, 96%, 98%. I can only think of one deal actually where it was on market that we found. We are getting it off market, and how does that work exactly? Like, if you think, let's think about the logic behind this. Off-market deals are available to people who are purchasing, you know, more than just the one property. So an agent is not going to invest the time to put you into their mailing list with all the off-market deals that come through their books. If you're just like a first-home buyer who's buying a single property, it's just not what they do. It's not a good use of their time. Now, at Alaya, we have someone fully focused on the Melbourne market. That's what they're doing. They're purchasing 5, 10, 15, 20 properties on a monthly basis for clients in Melbourne in specific markets. As a result, we are building relationships with so many agents at scale, right? So for an agent, it's like, yeah, this person that I'm talking to here, this is not a one-to-one conversation. This is a one-to-many conversation. I'm going to have this one conversation with Sim, shout out to Sim and my team, and potentially she has 10 clients lined up that have a very specific brief that I can start sort of positioning these properties to. That is like the referral networks and the sort of partner networks that we have in Melbourne specifically is one of the reasons we get access to off-market, because for agents, it's just a lot easier to work with a SIM than it is to work with a single buyer. And yeah, as a result of that, we're getting access to so many incredible properties that I'm actually a little bit baffled that these vendors don't choose to put them on the market, because they would get a lot more than what we're paying for it. That's for sure.
The real estate agents you're connected with are not listening to
they're
this
not.
podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm not talking about your property. That was another one.
You touched on something there, though. There's so many little things to unpack there. So let's just wind it back a little bit and just say, I am a property investor. I am somebody who just wants to go buy a property, and I'm not dealing with a liar or a buyer's agent. How do I do this? Because I'm buying one or two. I'm not buying 10, 20 per month.
Yep.
If you're in those circumstances, actually, let me reframe this.
Sure.
Have you bought any properties yourself prior to a liar, perhaps, on market or off market?
I bought both, actually. Some on market, some off markets as well.
Yes.
I purchased property. Okay, let me reframe this. I don't want to sound like an arrogant twat, to be honest, but I am good with people, right? I have an ability to sort of build relationships with people, probably better than most of the investors that are out there. Because the investors are, give me this property, I want this price, they lowball. But I build a lot of that trust beforehand. So yes, I have had access to, even though I was only buying one or two, the Perth one that I bought, it was off market. The South Australia one that I bought, that was off market. The one that I bought in Northern Queensland, in Townsville, that was off market.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's
really
hard
good
to do. But again, that was before the herd of investors and buyers agents clocked on, right?
Yep.
So I bought it in April of 2022. It was a different market then.
Oh, okay.
No one was buying in Townsville then, but it was still off market, right? It was sort of a distressed sale. It's kind of a sad scenario, and it sort of worked out quite well for all parties involved. So I have bought off market. It is different because I invest a lot of time. So me buying a property is not that I'm going to jump on realestate.com. This is a suburb I'm buying, and let me just go buy. I actually spend a month. The first month of my pre-approval, I'm just building relationships. So I spend the first month doing research, but not a lot of people are doing this. They're not spending that level of effort and time. So if you're a regular investor and you don't want to use a service like ours, that's okay. Spend the time, get better with your communication skills, get better with your agent sort of handling skills, and show them that you're actually worth them sort of putting that extra effort in.
People game.
It absolutely is, man.
100%.
And that's why I've hired the people that I've hired.
They're
Brilliant people. Like, they're very good at their jobs, but more than anything else, they're amazing with people.
Yeah. I can see that with a couple of them that I met. Yeah,
they're fantastic. Like otherwise you just can't do it. And I think, obviously, I sort of spoke about Melbourne, but I know just before this we were talking about Darwin, right? Darwin has the lowest listings ever of like 10 years, something ridiculous. Yeah. But then we found out in the last couple of months of purchasing properties for clients there, a lot of the stock is off market. Yes. It actually doesn't turn up in the sort of low level data, right? And I'm hearing it is, right? And you sort of think about how are we getting access to so many off markets, because it's such a heated market already. The market is moving from a month to month perspective. Yeah. You know how? Because I sent Tal up there. Tal is a team member of mine. He spent like 4 days there. He went and met the agents. He shook their hands. Like, how many people are doing that? How many people are flying to Darwin to talk to the agent, take him out to a pub, have a beer with him, and be like, hey, build a genuine relationship.
Yep.
And you know what that translated to? I had a team planning day last week with my team, and I heard Tal speak to one of the agents that he met in Darwin. I swear they'd known each other for like 20 years. They were talking like, there was like a bromance going on. Yeah. And I was like, of course this guy's going to send him off market properties. This is crazy.
You know what's crazy, Adi? This is a little bit different to the conversation that we're having. So we're segueing a little bit, but in our research piece and in a lot of the content that we'll be doing about Darwin, I don't know anything about Darwin, or I didn't know anything about Darwin. And part of that process was actually me picking up the phone, not speaking to real estate agents only. It was actually speaking to fellow investors, my investor community that I've got access to from, running Flint Invest for a long time, speaking to a lot of our existing clients, previous clients, some people who are working and looking at Darwin, speaking to people who live there, and just having chats. And you know what I found out about Darwin? People in Darwin are a little bit different, man.
They are, man.
They're like chill.
They're
like, let's have a chat, man. You're placing me. I got half an hour. Let's go have a conversation. I want to tell you about this area, this area, this area. And like, man, in Sydney, people will be like, boom, like,
get out.
Why are you calling me, man?
Yeah.
Next. That's
like,
right.
Very transactional. Melbourne, Sydney markets, very transactional. Is
that right? Yeah.
Darwin it's a people game over there, man. Yeah. You need to become friends with the agent. You need to be friends with the property manager. You need to be friends with the building inspector. Now this is something that's weird.
The full team.
Tal has become friends with building inspectors there. Yeah, and you might be thinking, oh, who cares? Building inspectors. There's like 3 of them in Darwin. And with investor activity picking up, these guys need to be available for us within the 7 days of the building clause to actually go and do a building inspection. Who do you think they're going to go to? Tal, the guy who went and took them out for a beer? or the guy who just keeps pestering them from like Sydney because
They don't know.
I want to buy in Darwin.
They don't like that.
They don't like that. They don't like that
Darwinites
impersonal.
do not like that. They don't like that
That's
arrogant
right.
Sydney sider.
They don't.
The arrogant Melbourneite with
That's
good
right.
people skills on a podcast just saying, hey, do my build and best.
That's right. Come on, man. Come on. We go way
Everyone
back.
likes Yadi. That's your
But
charm.
I think, but going back to the whole off-market thing, we're seeing this in Darwin. We're seeing it a lot in Melbourne. We're seeing it in other parts of the country as well, where we're buying for some of the clients. But it's really just a people game.
Yes.
We have an unfair advantage in the market because we're buying a little bit more stock than the regular investor, right?
Yes,
There's
of course,
that.
that's huge.
So there's a one-to-many relationship that a sales agent thinks in dollar signs. They're like, wow, I can literally, 4 properties I can send to these guys. If it meets their brief, they are going to purchase it because they have pre-approved clients, right?
Yep.
It just makes sense. Versus one person who's just they're an investor, they're a bit emotional, they want the second bathroom for some reason, but they don't have the budget for it. It's a much harder conversation for the agent.
For sure.
And then there are other parts of the country where we have understood that the dynamic has to be different. It's not a transactional market. It is a people-based market. So I want Tal to go and meet Arjun over in Darwin, have a beer with him so he can have that conversation that I overheard him talk, on Thursday.
Yep.
It was bizarre. I was like, you've known this guy for like 3 minutes. How are you like this good friends with him? He was bantering about it, like, oh, did you send another off market to someone else? Like, what happened, man? I thought we were bros. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Of course he's going to send it to you,
Yeah.
So it is. So going back to the overarching off market, there's Buzzword that's going on.
Yep.
Not all of them are good because we probably. Okay, I'm going to pull some numbers out.
Wait, before we get into this,
Sure,
can I just summarize this for everyone?
Absolutely, please do.
So I want you to take away this lesson from what everything Adi just said there. So the lesson here is be a good person.
Yes.
Treat it as a relationship, not just a transaction. Now, your property investment may be a transaction for your bigger picture journey of where you're going. And yes, it is that. Like, that's very much what it is.
Correct.
But to get access to off market, if that is the goal, you need to view it as I need to build connection with the person that I am seeking to get that off market properties with. Connection is always best built in person.
Correct.
But in the absence of that, you need to start using your people skills. It can't be sending an email with a random email name and being like, hey, can I see some off-market properties? Hey, how's it going? That's not going to work anymore. Now, the reason why I share that a little bit with you all is if you're listening to this, you might be like, hey, I'm trying to find it, but I'm finding it difficult to buy. I hear this a lot from people who don't use buyer's agents, particularly in hotter markets, and I suspect Darwin will be very much that now. I'm thinking northern Queensland, and saying it's so hard to get my hands on a deal at the moment or anything that stacks up or even be seen any properties, and anything that goes on real estate domain gets sold very, very quickly. That is already happening in Darwin. You could just go to any suburb and you'll see it. It says under offer, under offer, under offer on pretty much everything straight away. That's the way it is in a hot market, and Darwin is now a hot market. So if you wanted to buy there, form connection, treat it as a relationship first, and treat them as people. And importantly, in Darwin, adjust to Darwin, if that makes sense. So view it with your holiday type mindset. That's probably a strange way to describe it. If you go on holiday, you are a relaxed version of yourself. I just spent 10 days in Melbourne. I felt very relaxed while I was there. While in Sydney, I'm very much go, oscillating between, running business, being a dad, being very busy. That's just the work mindset that I have in a day-to-day basis. When you go to Darwin, you can treat it as a little bit of a holiday, but go there and form that connection with people, because that's how Darwinites will respond to you, rather than being that, Sydney side or Melbourneite that goes in there and just be like, punchy, let me see a result and get something out from you. View it as a connection, get to know them, be interested in the other person. Use some very, very basic communication principles. And this is how you get off markets. It's by treating people first.
Correct.
Buddy, let's keep going.
I think, I honestly, I couldn't have summarized that better. Honestly, spend a couple of grand, go up there. I would, if you're genuinely interested in a market like Darwin, spend the $2,000, whatever it is. It's a bit of an expensive trip, depending on where you're coming from. It was an investment for Alea to send Tal up there, and he will go up there again in June and probably August as well.
Be there every month now.
Yeah, every single month, building those relationships, meeting the inspectors. I want him to invest in this. And this is a people thing for us. It's not just access to off-market. It is also showing gratitude for the work that people are doing on our behalf, because there's a lot of work that happens in the background. And one of the ethos that I have in the company is that we are people first. We're not going to be transactional like some of these other bigger buyers agencies are doing, right? It's just the sort of the nature of the game. But I'm trying to change that within the company. So if you're interested in markets like Darwin and honestly Perth in 2021, when I was sort of looking there, a lot of the agents were also quite weary of the Sydney sider calling them out of the blue and being like, give me some off market, and be like, oh, we don't work like that here. It's probably not anymore, but it was like a large regional town. They're people first. They're community-based people,
exactly,
right?
Yes, yes.
Whereas Melbourne and Sydney are just not like that. They'll be more transactional here. You can see, you can go to the city here and just people are just rushing by, on their phones. They just head down.
For sure.
Doesn't work that way. So if you're interested in buying in Darwin, I would really invest. Going up on a Thursday, come back on a Sunday, take them out for a couple of beers, and they would love you. And honestly, it's a couple of grand. It's a bit of time investment, but honestly, the stock and it's fun. And Darwin's a gorgeous place. If you're going to avoid the crocodiles, it is a beautiful place.
Avoid the crocodiles and the crime.
That's right.
Some of the jokes we've made on this Apple podcast, and
not with me though. That was a different person.
I keep getting reminded of this. Yes, I will book a trip to Darwin pretty soon. I went to Melbourne first because Melbourne's my favorite city in the world, other than Sydney, and Darwin was a longer flight, so I still haven't done that yet. On our agenda,
yes.
Let's go through the next bit about on-market and off-market.
Sure.
Can we go through the cons?
Absolutely.
The pros and cons. So I've bought a lot of properties off-market as well and on-market. But what I find is I say no to most off-market properties that pop up on my desk. So this isn't a layer related. It's just my own personal investing. As a Sydney sort of developer, Sydney person, Sydney property investor, buying in Sydney, I've got access to a lot of off-market deals. Agents, I probably got a couple messages on my phone, be like, hey, Reedham, what do you think about this? Yeah. Especially in the eastern suburbs around where I live, the inner south, in areas that I've sort of purchased a lot, people will be like, hey,
To be fair, you're a buyer's agency all on your own. You should have so, yeah, it's slightly different. But yes, go on.
That does happen. But I say no to pretty much all of them, if that makes sense. Mainly because, there's only me, a limited budget, can be very, very scarce about it. So can you tell me, am I right in this? Like, what are the pros and cons of markets? And do you see that a lot? Are you finding that you just get shown a lot of stuff that you're like, no, this doesn't work?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of off-market. Let's just address why do people go off-market when you can clearly possibly get a higher result or a better result when you go on-market?
Yes.
A lot of people are quite particular about who they want let to their house. So we see a lot of off-markets from owner-occupiers, right? They don't want people traversing through their house. It's a very common thing, right? There are a lot of pockets in Melbourne. They're quite like family-oriented. They're like, we don't want to have Saturday opens where 20 groups of people go through. It sucks. Like, I don't want that. And
sounds crazy, Adi, but I just sold my owner-occupier. We did a owner-occupier upgrade. I don't think I've actually talked about it on this podcast, oddly enough. Probably will. It's a very personal sort of story, but I would have happily this sounds crazy, on my own property, I'd happily take a 2% discount on my price, 50 grand. I'd give 50 grand away if I didn't have to sell. If I didn't have people going in there, because I got 2 little kids, I had to style my home. Correct. It sucks selling a home. I hated it. I genuinely hated it being freaking hell. Can I just get it done in a different way and save myself on marketing? It does kind of feedback in there. So as an owner-occupier with children, I get it, because I actually don't like random people just walking through and seeing my my stuff.
That's right. And like I had an owner-occupier for a while as well. I had to do the staging. It was $4,000. It was just a whole thing that happens, right? And it's not a fun process. So a lot of people don't want that. That's a great opportunity for us, because we're like, oh, great. We'll be there. We won't go through your house. We'll do a private inspection separately, and you can be there. We really have this,
don't have to lock up your
like a system, exactly. Right? So
edit that out. Editor, don't edit that out. That's funny.
That's funny.
Keep going.
I would hide your wallets if readings come through. So off market. So we do say no to a lot of them, because even though they don't want to put it on market for whatever reason, a lot of them just suck, right? A lot of them just suck. They're near transmission lines. They're near the creek. They're backing onto some freeway. There's so much work that goes in prior to a property is even presented to a client of ours, right? There's a ton of work. And what that work looks like is actually saying no to a bunch of stuff. Right. So not all off market is gold. I really want to press this with you guys. Like if you see an off market, don't get so excited that, oh my gosh, I'm getting access to this off market deal.
People think that.
It's not. It's not that big a deal. Like it's okay. Like just take a breather. Still put it through your framework of due diligence.
Yes.
Off market doesn't magically solve all these things, right? It just literally means it's not on REA or domain or homely or something, right? So just be mindful of that. It still needs to go through your framework. Yes, all that really translates to is that you have less buyer competition. And that's where we really sort of shine at Alea, because we are suddenly not competing against the 30 people that have rocked up on a Saturday. We are competing against the other savvy investor. It's a much controlled environment. And property investing is really just how many variables can you control? And if you can control that variable, which is why I'm saying I can confidently say 96% or 98% of our purchases in the last 2 months have been off market because it's just easier. It's just a hell of a lot easier for us.
Dozens now as well, right?
Absolutely. There's dozens of those, especially in Melbourne. Actually, you know what? Good segue. In Darwin, I actually just bought a property in Darwin. It went unconditional.
Let's not talk too much about it because I want to do another episode on it.
We do.
There's a little teaser about Adi's latest property purchase. He's disclosed it. Let's share it a little bit more. I think it's important we do disclose that. We are on this channel, and one thing that we've been absolutely spirited principle by is full transparency and full disclosure. And the fact that Adi has exposure in Darwin now probably should be known by us because we talk about Darwin. So that's cool. So we'll share.
I'm not going to stress on it, but the point was it was off market, right?
Ooh.
So it is because my team.
Was it Tao's beer?
It was.
Was it Tao's beer? Oh, man.
It was his light beer, man. So yes. So a lot of off market deals. They are not all good.
Sneaky.
Just I have a team now, so why not? I'm thinking Melbourne next. So
love it.
Let's get to work, Sim. Less competition. They're not all great. So please don't just don't have your blinkers on because you see the word off market in your email or whatever it is. But yes, if you are purchasing, it is a hell of a lot easier to do an off market deal with someone who is quite determined to sell. There's just like an extra layer of motivation a lot of the time when it comes to off market deals, and your negotiation power is just different.
Q&A to you.
Sure.
I find that most off markets that get presented to me, people ask for too much money, and part of the people I say no to, like individually, I say no to 99 off markets to buy one, but I'm only buying, a couple of properties a year. So that makes sense for me. Are you finding at scale that you're saying no to so many deals that people just can't see that work happening behind the scene, that, hey, you've been shown 20 off market deals today and only 1 or 2 of them have met the next step of the criteria. Is that, am I
absolutely, man. Right? Absolutely. It's the reasons for rejecting on market, off market, whatever it might be. It's the same, right? If it's priced poorly, I'm not going to pay you 30 grand just because you're not putting it on REA. That's 30 grand more because you're not putting it on REA. That makes no sense. Like I will still pay you what it's worth, or ideally a little bit lower, so we can build in some of that equity from day one. I will still do my due diligence. I'm not going to suddenly ignore the fact that there's a transmission line next to your house because you're selling it off market. None of that means anything, right? Still the same level of due diligence. The only thing that changes is that you have less buyer competition. You're not dealing with Joe and Kate down the road because they are looking to get into the market and they're like, oh, there's a massive sign outside saying, there's an inspection on Saturday.
For sure.
We don't have Joe
and one more pro as well. Conditions and terms, right?
Yes.
I've noticed that with the off markets that we see our clients buy at Flint Invest, they always have they have like 14-day finance clauses in there versus when you buy in Melbourne, like 1,000 properties transact every weekend, you have to buy at auction. In New South Wales, there's no cooling off. You're putting in 66W offers. The way I buy a property, I've mentioned it on this podcast, is when I go and buy something, I'm buying that something. Like the agent knows it. I use that. This is a Sydney-esque attitude, but it works in Sydney where it's just like, you deal with me, I'm going to make your life easy. You're going to go home to your wife and your kids. You're going to have dinner. It's going to be nice and simple, and you're going to have the best deal of your life. That is how I use relationship skills there, and I kind of make it very clear to every agent. You're not going to hear me say, I need to speak to my wife. You're not going to hear me say, I need to think about it. I want to sleep on it. You don't hear any of that from me. You hear clear-cut certainty. authority, confidence,
Correct.
and process knowledge
Yep.
that just makes an agent being like, my God, can I just sell it to this guy?
Yeah.
And when he calls the vendor and the vendor says, oh, should we think about it? Being like, do not lose this buyer because he's the dream.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Correct.
So sometimes you can do that in a different way.
For sure.
That's one way to navigate it. But a different way with off markets is you don't actually need to do that so much. I mean, it helps sometimes, but you can also operate with a little bit more control.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
For sure.
With conditions. Is that right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, absolutely. I think
Love that.
because it's off market, again, it all goes back to the whole thing, right? We have fewer competitors, right? And especially because one of the values that we bring at LA Property is that we don't lowball, right? We don't go in and be like, oh, I'm going to give you 100K less than what you want. We don't do any of that. We do a lot of work beforehand to do comparable sales. We do valuations. We talk to banks and brokers and all that kind of stuff. We understand the intrinsic value of that property, and then we provide an offer accordingly. Now, how do we entice that offer? We're like, hey, some of the clients that we have, they're fully pre-approved. Finance is never going to be an issue. No finance clause. Done. Like imagine you're selling it off market to someone. Someone comes to you and be like, hey, I will literally sign the contract as long as the building and pest doesn't come back with some major concerns. We're done. So it's that control facet, right? We suddenly have control over something that you probably lose a little bit of control on if it's on market, because now you've got 40 other people to deal with. Everyone's got different everyone's got different conditions, everyone's got different positions. The vendors being peppered with offers, like 20 different offers, and it's a free for all. Half the time you're not going to be successful in that market.
I love this.
Right? So but off market, yes, it is. But I'll go back to my point. It is still a buzzword. Most of them are not great. So please still do
They're the cons. I think we've kind of touched on the pros and cons. So the main lessons of this is, like, if I just framed it as, how do I find 20 off-market deals a week to go and buy? The main framing here is develop relationships with the agents, stay in touch with the agents as well. Develop a relationship is, stay in touch with the person. That is part of 101 of relationships. Don't ghost them. It kind of works like that. Maintain that healthy communication. Don't be lowballing can actually lose that relationship. Correct. If you go in and he shows you something and you go in 50 grand beneath it, you don't want to deal with them. And one thing that I've noticed as well is, this is over a long period of time working with clients, is they have no idea how we perceive them as the other side of it. So let's put myself as mortgage broker here working with a clientele, service provider in the property space working with a client. I'm a human, so we behaviorally can kind of identify patterns and triggers from other humans when they communicate with us. If somebody asks for a discount, for example, on our services, a bit strange in mortgage broker land to hear that, but if I heard that, or if there's certain signals that we receive, when you've done thousands of deals, and over 10 years, that's kind of where we're at the moment, you can kind of profile the sort of person that you want to work with and who's going to be a kind of painful person to work with and who's not. You don't necessarily, real estate agents, where you have some choice, they don't want to deal with a painful person. Part of the simplicity element of you need somebody to act on your behalf. If you are that type of person, it's you can find the needle in the haystack. You can do that because you're only searching for one property and you do have that in your favor, but it does work against it. So you got to balance exactly how to frame your offer and make sure it's within a certain ballpark and justify it and hear and communicate properly to get these off-market deals. And also be very mindful of, just because something's off market doesn't mean you should be buying it. That isn't any reason. That is no reason in a simple form to buy anything. On market, off market, doesn't really matter. The marketing strategy the real estate agent has for you. Yes. You need to be looking at the property and its fundamentals properly. And if it is off market, you do get a few little perks with potential conditions and build and pest, a little bit more time, closed market. You have different sort of negotiation strategy attached to that. But you don't necessarily need to get too excited, be like, I found myself an off-market party time. It doesn't necessarily need to be like that. So have I covered it all here?
I think you have. Yeah, I think we've covered the base. I think the summary was good. Yeah.
I love it.
Treat off-market as the buzzword as it is. Right?
Adi, I absolutely love having you on this podcast and doing this with you, because I'm talking about some really, really fun stuff. How to find 20 deals a week in your bedroom, essentially, or in our case, you have to fly to Darwin, have a different bedroom, but, how to find lots and lots of deals into your inbox and then choose from there. Like, I feel like the audience got a real flavor of how to get something done here. Adi,
Absolutely.
thank you. It's a pleasure hearing this from you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. That was fun.